Hey, I thought I'd just hop in here, do a quick hot take. These hot takes are not necessarily controversial, but it's always pointing at that gap between what we know and what we actually apply. So I was working with a client and I reflected on the blind spot that creates this knowing doing gap. And a repeated observation is that people tend to judge their own capabilities based on optimal circumstances. I know I do that. I've seen other people do it. And then often when we judge other people, we judge them based on where they fall short. And this could actually be reversed, too, right? I mean, some people might do it the opposite way, but that's not the point. The bigger point is this. If you consider athletes versus leaders, when a leader has a fail, they use poor judgment, for example, in a particular situation that had some pressure in it. They treat that as, oh, it's an anomaly. It's because the pressure was there. Whereas the athlete, they know that now they have to go work on that skill and learn to do it under pressure, train themselves to do it under pressure, drills, people with their hands in their face or whatever, adding gamification onto it to create the pressure. My point is, when the leader has a fail that's related to pressure, and this is professionals, I'm talking about leadership here, but it's anybody. When we have a fail that's related to pressure, it's not that we forgot how to do the thing. It's that we lost the access to our ability during that moment of pressure. And that's an important point, because as long as we continue to think that it's just a personality quirk or it's just an anomaly, it prevents us from actually going after the thing to fix it. And then because we don't fix it or correct it, we're faced with the potential of this fail happening again and again. I'm using fail just as a placeholder, but the point is, they know how to speak, they know how to communicate, they know how to do X, Y, and Z, but under a certain kind of pressure, it falls apart. So what's going on? I want to use the pressure curve to explain, at least at an initial level, what's going on here. So this is the inverted U. It's been around since the early 1900s. I call it the pressure curve, as many do. There's other names for it, but I look at it as the pressure curve. The way it's set up is you have this side here is low arousal. The person's not engaged. There's just not enough. They're not putting in the effort. It says boredom and apathy. And then you have the other side, which is overwhelmed, overstimulated. You have the cognitive narrowing. You have the fight or flight. And in the middle, you have optimal pressure. So in optimal pressure, people can show up as the best version of themselves. This is what I was referring to. People look at this as what their capabilities are, and they tend to discount this as, oh, that was just a unique situation. And that was just a unique situation. But there's some percentage of our lives that is going to be under pressure, period. And what's going on now with the changes, and I look to artificial intelligence as a concern, because it's throwing so much information at us that the amount of assumptions we have to make, that's increasing. The amount of unknown, that's increasing. And both of those things can create stress. The more assumptions we are making, the less we feel in control of the outcome. And the more information, the more unfamiliarity there is, and that adds to stress and fight or flight. So this all pushes over to this side of the curve. We have to be able to function in that side. Now, the thing is, if we don't just go after this and get better at functioning under high pressure, because this is habitual. These are habit patterns. This is neurobiological. It's not mind. It's not that you know how to do it, but you can't do it. It's that you can't access it. If I look at the same slide, but so here, this is the mental state. This one, hold on. This is the mental state view. You see low arousal, underwhelmed, not engaged, high arousal, overwhelmed, overstimulated. And this is the performance view. Poor and below average performance. They lack motivation. the effort is low. And you know, if you do exercise, running, bicycling, whatever, we've all had those days where we should be recovering, and we're still trying to push ourselves and just can't get that speed back to what it should be. And you put the effort in, but it's not paying back. It's that struggle that happens over here. You're trying, but it's not working. And then on this side, we have heading towards collapse. There's so much stimulation that we're ready to just throw everything up throw everything up and pick up the pieces later and start again. This side over here is we're ineffective. We're struggling to process the information. That's that fight or flight. Again, we've all seen that. The big aha is that this is where that's occurring. It's in the network of neurons side. It's not in the real thinking side. We approach it from the conscious mind side, but it's happening in the network of neurons side. And this middle area here, the transition from the network of neurons over to the conscious mind, this is our present moment. When we can hold tension in the present moment, we're more likely, more able to put this into perspective. But chances are, if you're already triggered, this has collapsed. And what we want to do is keep widening. And that's what we do in this group, is we look at ways that we can widen for ourselves and for those people that we're working with. So that's the backdrop. And then this one here, what I talk about is that first half second when it's on the network of neurons side, very little effort for very high impact. You catch these things early before the trajectory starts, you can do a lot with a little bit of effort. Once that trajectory is on its way, we're now defending it as part of our identity. The effort is very, very high and the impact is low. And this is one of the reasons people give up on trying to make changes, because it seems impossible. But the thing is, we can condition it in. And this is why I talk about neuroplasticity. It's because anything we're doing on this side has to be conditioned as a habit. But there's a narrative out there that you can't change habits. Emotional intelligence has been telling us that since the mid-90s, because at that time we didn't have the brain scanning tools available to us, or they weren't refined enough to understand that it's not a mind, it's a network of neurons. And that myelin, the same way that myelin wraps around the neural pathway, the neurons, and strengthens the neural pathways for physical activity, it does the same thing for cognitive processing. So when it comes to changing a habit, yes, we can change habits. You change habits cognitively the same way that you do for physical. I'm going to go to the pad. And if I look at the left side where the person is engaged, and let's just call this green line this is our baseline. This is where we should be. But on the left side, and this is a hot take, so I work through these initially and then I come back and refine it. But let's say on that side, we're actually below the line. We might have some blips come up here, but our average is below the line. Right? And then if you take the middle under optimal pressure, you have the line. And then over here, we're performing a little above, sometimes a little bit below. It's what we expect. This is where we should be. And then when you are on the overwhelmed side, it's back to this, but for a different reason, right? So we're seeing ourselves down here, we're spiking and then we're coming back down and everything is erratic. If I look at it from a coherent standpoint, and look at the 1 second model, second by second. And so now I'm saying that we have this we have the 1 second model here. And on this side over here, we're talking just about the network of neurons. When it's on the, let me go back to here. When it's on this side over here, and we're in that fight or flight, you can think of it like this. You're moving along and you're having these spikes of fight or flight. And then it happens again. You have another spike of fight or flight. You have another spike of fight or flight. And this keeps happening, and you're overwhelmed, and no matter what you do, you try to suppress it, and it gets worse. You suppress it, it gets worse. And now you're staying like you're almost flatlining at this high level where you're just on the edge. And like I said, you're about to break. Now this is happening, each one of these might be 1 second. It's happening 30,000 times a day. What we want to do in the optimal pressure area, we want to expand how quickly we can do this, the rapid recovery. So you have the spike, but you're able to recover. You have the spike, but you're able to recover. So this is a little bit different than flow state, because flow state, you're moving along and everything is just, the right amount of stress is happening, the right amount of success is happening, and you're able to have that nice balanced feel. But what we want is to condition that left side, the network of neurons. We want to condition this side over here so that before that signal reaches the right side, before the signal reaches the right side, we're going to intervene with a preconditioned step that gets us back to baseline. We have a spike, we get back to baseline instantly. So if you were to look at this version up here and you say that, okay, so what does coherence look like? Let's take a look at coherence. So in the beginning of the day, you have a certain amount of coherence, but as this is happening, you're getting less and less coherent to where now it's very narrow. It doesn't take much to throw you into fight or flight. And what's happening as coherence drops, from fight or flight, you have more chaos, spiking, lashing out, reactivity, and you have more rigidity. Fixed mindset, nothing's going to work, I can't do it, I've tried everything. When you are doing this, when you have the quick reset, using the same scenario, you keep your coherence constant. Your coherence stays constant across the board. Your rigidity stays small, your chaos stays small, and you're able to continue resetting. And it doesn't take much imagination to recognize that as you spike up and as you go up, you go more and more and more into beta brainwaves throughout the day. You have less and less bandwidth for responding. You have less and less bandwidth to absorb whatever's coming your way. And this is where we get the reactivity instead of the responding. And then it does not even the extreme. The next thing is we're reacting to our own reactions. when you see a person crashing out, think about a phobia response or something like that. A person is crashing out. They are they are reacting to their own internal reactions. They're catastrophizing inside. And no matter what you say, it's not helping. They're not even able to pick up, to receive what you're saying, because things are happening on this network of neurons side, and they're just cycling over here. They never even get over to this other side. They're just cycling over here, and it never becomes a response because it's happening so fast. Instead of every other second, it's happening multiple times a second. So that's just a view. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I will talk about it a little bit on Thursday when I go into goal setting, because one of the things we'll talk about is resistance factors. And one of those resistance factors when it comes to goal setting is, of course, that pressure that we're not able to modulate. All right, I'll see you.